grab a drink, okay? But
Yeah,
I'll
go ahead,
stay.
bud.
I won't be 2 seconds.
All right. Hello, everybody. Happy 20th, 2020 to you, 2020. So, and today we're joined with Yvonne Gordon, and, well, I think Phil went to go get something to drink, or maybe, uh-oh, what's that going? Oh, that's my phone, as usual.
Yeah, it's okay, it's okay. I'm just making a quick drink.
No, that's okay.
Now.
We're joined with Phil Langdon and Yvonne Gordon, and today we're going to talk all things spiritual. And if anybody has a question, just put it in chat in all caps, and be sure to get it through to them. But anyways, tell us a little bit about yourself, Yvonne, and where your journey started. You know, just a short, quick synopsis of it, and then we'll go on to you, Phil, and see the same thing.
My journey started when I was 14. I had my first encounter with Jesus, and it was a hard encounter, which is why I believe it meant so much to me, because I think if I had been brought up with the idea of Jesus and the concepts of Jesus, I wouldn't have I might have known a lot more, but I wouldn't have connected at that age the way I did. It was so important for me to have that connection, because it really gave me a sense of sanity for the first time in my life. I didn't really know what trust was until I talked about that in my videos. But from that point on, it was just a really rough ride. There was nothing easy about it. I couldn't let go of that connection because of what it had given me. But my mind was so, screwed up. So I had to go through a lot of things. What I did was I started searching in all these religions, and I wanted to know about this Jesus that I had connected to. And I literally went through dozens of religions to understand him better. But I found out after a long, long time that I never got better until I gave more of my heart, my desire. It was the connection with the desire to know him. I had to project all that onto this person that I believe was God, in order to have desire to know him. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had that desire if he was just like anybody else. I didn't trust people. So I had to believe the way I believed. And, it brought me around. The searching brought me around. I left all the religions one by one when I came up against a wall that didn't coincide with my experience. And that went on until I was 40. At 40, I went on a long fast, and I hit that light. That light just filled me, and within a couple of years, it broke my consciousness apart. And that from that point on, I went into what I call judgment, which is correction of my heart and mind. And it lifted my will. They call that the serpent lifted up. And it literally lifted my will to where I could now put myself together around that goodwill. I called it the goodwill in me. And that's what Christ turns out to be, is the goodwill that brings peace on earth. So that's the short story for me. Right?
Awesome. That's awesome. And the reason why I have these two on, guys, is because they come to the same conclusions from two totally different perspectives, which proves, that there's substance to what they're talking about. So yeah, Phil, why don't you go ahead and give us a little quick synopsis of your journey and what it started and whatnot. You're muted, bud.
So I did that because I put the kettle on.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, so well, there's an awful lot to say, but basically I got a wake-up call at 24. There's plenty to say about my childhood, but my big wake-up call was when I was 24 and I was doing a degree in maths and physics. And it completely 180'd my attention. Instead of ignoring the ancient world and the mysteries, I actually started focusing on pyramids and alignments and all sorts of things associated with what's called the builder race, because Okay, that's a long story, but 20 years later, I was endeavoring to understand what I thought was reality, so I could define my own place in it and be useful, even just to myself or to the world, you know, because I felt kind of useless in a way. I was basically looking for the truth, and that turned out to be God. And I didn't realize that until pretty close to the end, to be honest. And then I found God at Angkor Wat. We met, we unified, and 5 days later, I effectively exploded out the top of my head, and had what is traditionally called ascension. The kind of ascension that you hear about in the Bible. It's exactly the same event for everybody. It's always the same, because it's always the same condition that you find yourself in. And that was 5.5 years ago. And of course, as you know, we've been talking about that ever since.
Yeah, that's awesome. And
Yeah.
the event is quite literally the event of finding love or truth or your true self, right? I mean, for both of you, is that what you take it as? I mean,
Yvonne?
You know, I'm just now really I understood the love of God for the last 26 years since I, hit that point. But I'm coming around to that second part, which is loving your neighbors yourself. I'm kind of, I mean, it's automatic that you love God in everyone because you can see him. You understand God in you, so you know God is the same in everybody. But the big question is like, how do you help people discover that? That's me and Phil were both kind of like, that was our desire. Like, how do you help other people? With me, it's the biblical language. I want to help people understand that it is a book of love, that God is trying to reveal himself, and that, somehow we were put in this dimension to learn about him because we're learning about things from the opposite point of view. It's like we don't really know what something is when we're in it, but then when we come out, all of a sudden we can inspect it and we can see it from all these opposites, love, hate, light, dark, evil, good. It's almost like the bad or the dark or the death, so to speak, is what makes all the opposite become so important and gives us a sense of that's the meaning, that is the meaning, to know that and to find that. There is no other meaning but to find life. And why we had to go through this tunnel, I'm just talking to somebody earlier. It's like, I understand the anger and sometimes that I've had a God, like, why are you taking so long for other people? I understand it for me, but sometimes, you love somebody and you want them to stop suffering. You just want it to stop already. And you don't know how to give it to them. That's been a real struggle. Like, how do you give people? How do you help people? What do you really do to help others find that love? And I'm open to any suggestions.
you have any suggestions, Phil?
I do.
You do?
I do. Yeah, I do. Would you believe it? This is the very issue that I've been learning.
Dude, I got to stop you. This is exactly what was on my mind. And I swear to you guys, by my whole being, that this is exactly what I wanted to talk about. And it's coming out without me even having to say it. So go ahead. It's awesome.
Right. So, have you ever been in love with somebody?
Me?
And either of you? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know what that's like. You know how you feel and how you want to express yourself to that person.
Yes, sir.
Right. Now, do if you did that to yourself, what would you have? You'd have a perfect relationship with yourself. Loving yourself is not about pampering yourself as such, or puckering your ego or anything like that, making you feel better when you don't want to think about something that needs to be dealt with psychologically. Loving yourself is about total self-honesty, and going through. I've been through so many different mental visualizations recently that are from my old life that I had to resurface and process and know exactly when they're wrong and when they're right. So I've been through a processing experience recently that has filtered out all the nonsense from my previous life, and I'm only left with the best, as if I've siphoned off the cream of the crop, you know, and I've gotten rid of all the dross. And I'm keeping all the stuff that's useful. And it turns out in my hindsight for myself that loving myself means I'm going to be in a state of bliss with myself by my own intention. And wanting to help people, the best way to help people is to literally be a shining, living example for them, so that you show them your self-appreciation that's divine, basically. And when they see that, they'll recognize it. An angel walked into a born-again Christian church when I was 20 years old, and I knew that was an angel. I could tell by his demeanor, the way he held his face was completely relaxed. See, an angel has nothing to worry about, so they simply relax. And they've got just this great sense of depth and peace, and divine backup. You know, with God inside you, nothing can harm you, nothing can stop you. And to me, it's learning to love myself is going to mean that I'm going to be an example of that to others, so they can look at me and think, how is this working? How come there's such bliss in this person?
Like, let him come to you and ask, you know, like they say in the program, if you want what we have and are willing to go to any lengths to get it, somebody's got to see something in you that they want, and then they'll go after it in their
That's right. That's right. Like when I was a teenager with a teenage mind, I looked at Bruce Lee and I thought, I kind of want to be as excellent as that, because I could see the excellence of it. But I applied that excellence to Taoism at the time, you know. I didn't want to beat people up. I just thought the focus and concentration that he displayed and proved was a great example of how to use the mind to produce an effect on yourself, as if you are an alchemist working on yourself, because that's the basis of Kung Fu, which means self-work, which is the great work. You see, so I immediately started with the great work in a Chinese form. You see, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and throughout all ancient civilizations, this information is prevalent. I mean, it's there right in front of us, and in so many forms, symbolism and whatnot.
Dude, I just wanted to add, because I mentioned.
Go ahead, cut me off anytime. I don't care.
so I think it's important, just to say, just in case anyone thinks that we've moved away from the subject. Loving yourself. How do you feel about that? Yourselves. How do you take that concept?
Yeah. Or him. Are you asking Steve or me?
Both of you.
Okay. Well, loving myself is something that I had to give up on. I mean, I never knew what it was, but the more I experienced the love of God, the less I had to worry about loving myself, because I just felt it. I just felt love. And to me, it's like, I don't have to direct it. I don't have to say, well, this is for you. It's just like you said in that video, it just fills you up. So you don't worry about loving yourself. The concern is more like, how do I, like you said, you don't want to harm somebody with the wrong information. I always worry about that. I like to give people the goods on the Bible, you know, the really good interpretation. But am I really harming them? I don't know. And then I take them down. I'm like, you know, is that too much information? Am I ruining their faith in the Jesus they need to know, instead of the Jesus that I've come to know? It's like, it's personal. So I don't want to ruin someone else's relationship to God with information that may not help them at all, you know? Mm-hmm. So it's a really kind of a weird thing to be enlightened in a way, because you know that love is real. You know that there's nothing better. There's nothing else that's going to ever come along the pike. You're not even looking for anything else. So then, you know, it's just like, well, how do I give it without, like you said, hurting others, without taking them off the path, stumbling them, stuff like that. You know, that's my big concern. That's all.
Right.
To me, loving myself is giving myself a big fat hug and kissing myself in the mirror. I'm kidding.
There you go.
I'm kidding, of course.
Go.
But no, just that what I get when I hear that statement is when you feel that upwelling of I don't know, just satisfaction in you when you help others for no particular reason and you see joy on somebody else's face. That's what loving myself is. That's, because if I can't do that for somebody, then I can't do it for myself. So that's
Yeah.
how I see it.
That's why I appreciate you so much, Steve, because I see you doing that. It's so easy for you. It's like, I don't know why you say you're not enlightened, because that's all I ever see is that desire to, and not only desire to help people, but you do it. You just have this effortless way about you, and I love that about you.
Well, thank
So
you
I'm
very
glad you
much.
can hug yourself. I'll give you a hug. But and it's wonderful to. That's what I think it's come down to. It's like I feel really good when I can give something physically to people. It's like I can't give them the metaphysical understanding or the spiritual understanding, but I can fill my cat bowl with tuna, or I can give somebody, like if they need something that I have, give it to them. That is probably the only way that I can think of that I can show the love that I feel.
Well,
And then just hope that they clean up for
spiritual
themselves.
guidance more than you know, Yvonne. You give spiritual guidance more than you know, to a lot more than you know, and I guarantee that.
We can also lose sight and lose touch of the fact that we're doing really good things by doing this anyway. And even just having one video on YouTube is an achievement and something when compared to how many other people's lives they never get on YouTube. They've got nothing to tell anybody. They're not developing themselves, etc., etc. There's all kinds of people on the planet. I'm just saying that when you compare yourself to other people on the planet, you realize how much you're doing that is phenomenal and good, and it's very easy to forget that and to think, well, if I don't do anything wonderful today, all the stuff I've done that's wonderful, it's all done, it's gone, and it doesn't matter anymore, and all this sort of mentality, and it's not like that at all. On YouTube, I had a real issue, talking about any of this stuff for over a year before I started to open my mouth, and I didn't want to appear on camera. But then I realized that I'm thinking beyond myself. I realized that it would be very beneficial for people to be able to see my eyes while I'm talking, so they can see that I'm not making things up. They can register what my face is saying, and they can see that I'm genuine, etc., etc. Right. But I had a real problem with telling people too much. I thought I was telling people too much already, and I barely scratched the surface. Mm-hmm. So that is an issue. But then with YouTube, people choose to watch you. So you got this get out of jail free card, really, with the free will concept that you're not forcing anything on anyone because they can choose to watch you or not. So it is their choice.
Right. I try to remember that it is their choice. And that's a good point. Yeah, it is their choice.
And really, when it comes to giving out information, what's the ultimate information? That God is all there is and God is real. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. So giving out information is always going to lead to the greatest thing there is.
Yeah, it's funny because it goes back to that conversation I was having with that other person. When you're going through your process and you feel so much turmoil inside yourself, they don't call it the Great Tribulation for nothing. And the travail and the mourning and all that stuff, that I went through, I know how important it is at that point that, people have that connection of faith. So unfortunately, when I talk to people who are in their faith, that's where, I just have to become more sensitive to, like what you were saying, seeing where they're at, what they can hear, But I can't judge it either. If you can't be God. Well, I shouldn't say it like that, because that's what you're God conscious. But you also have to become conscious of
who you're with.
I just shot myself in the foot, right?
No.
You know what I mean? It's like where they're at.
I do that all the time.
empathy with your company, you know, what kind of company are you with at that moment? Yeah, you need to sort of respect that, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's also weird how like the more you know, at peace you are, the less you have to say anyway, right?
Right.
You kind of like, oh, well, I don't got nothing to say. I can see why Yoda just took off and lived in a cave. You know, what is there to say? There's nothing left to say. So you know, you just keep bringing up the same old stuff because you know
Right.
you want to do something. You know, I mean, am I saying it right?
You're saying exactly right. And Yvonne, quit taking your videos down because it drives me nuts when I go to rewatch something and it's deleted or it's private.
Whoa, I know. I'm sorry. I
No,
really
that's all
am.
right. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I just know other people that are watching me that I've contacted. You know, that I've said things on their forum, and I know they're watching me by what they're saying and how they're responding to, you know,
Oh,
like
yeah.
to kind of set me straight. And then I think, well, I'm not, that didn't help very much, you know, that wasn't very helpful to them. And so that's how I learn. It's like a biofeedback system, spiritual feedback system, you know, you kind of learn as you go along what you're doing, just like everything else, just like you learned about yourself and how you, everything was like a feedback. It you do something and it feeds you back as to whether you're finding the truth because you're more free or whether you just got lost in a rabbit hole because you were looking at something with only your mind, only your curiosity, your heart's not in it, and you know you can get lost, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. Absolutely.
Anything else to add to that?
No, me, no.
Okay, yeah. So I forgot what I was asking before, but you know, these concepts are known through throughout our history, ancient past, including recent past. And go ahead.
No, I just remembered. I was
Yeah,
just thinking.
I knew I would spark a memory in you.
Yeah.
He's just like us, Yvonne. He does the same thing where he forgets what he's talking about.
Yeah, I know.
We're all alike like that. Yeah.
The idea of loving yourself, just going back to that finally, that can have many different forms. Like, and you both encapsulated different forms of that there. You know, that you serve others, it makes you feel good about yourself. It's a way of loving yourself. Effectively, I've been forced recently, just to let you guys know, to master my emotions and master my mind, because my mind tried to take over a few times in the last few months, and I had to struggle with that by remembering my own presence and going back into my own presence, because the last 4 years have been an intellectual endeavor to such an extent that I became very much focused in my mind a lot, and I tended to forget about my own presence. And I've been reminded of my presence, that it's time to fix all the things that weren't fixed before, and that is to master my emotions, which I've actually done. I actually did it. And the way that I'll just let you into a little secret how this was done. It's like when you break a bone. If you break a bone, like in your leg, let's say you're a kid, you break your bone, it snaps. You know, let's say that's the bone, and it snaps, and you don't go to hospital, but the bone fixes itself and it refuses back, but it's not aligned.
Right.
But it refuses back, and now you can use your leg, at least you can carry on doing stuff.
Right.
After a certain number of years, it causes you a problem. You start getting a lot of pain there. So you go to an actual doctor this time, and what he has to do is re-break your leg to reset it correctly this time. Right. That's exactly what's happened to me. That is what God has done to me, because I asked him specifically to sort out whatever was left over in me, because I knew there was an issue. I knew there was something lingering in my emotional body or whatever from the past that had to be cleaned out. And I said, look, I don't know how to do that. I need your help. And this is what he's done. So he basically got my twin to break my heart on purpose, right? So that I could be in a terrible state where I was almost beside myself with grief. I was beside myself with grief in January and February, and the crying I was doing then was unbelievable. And about a month ago, I started realizing, hang on a sec, I'm not supposed to be allowing myself to cry like this every single day. To master my emotions, I have to get on top of this, and that's what I've realized. It doesn't mean I'm suppressing anything. It means I have it under my control, because the cause of that crying was being in my mind and not in my presence. Do you see what I'm saying? So I was being forced back into my presence to realize that I'm doing it to myself. I'm doing it to myself. This is the greatest lesson that I've learned, that what you're doing in your life, you are doing it to yourself. You are the cause of your experience, effectively.
Right.
Yeah, overall, when things take effect.
Why are you looking at me when you're saying that?
Say again?
So why are you looking at me when you're saying that?
I wasn't consciously
You're
doing that
staring
for any
right
reason.
at me.
No, because
Sorry.
There's that concept in Christianity, where Christ brings a sword and, just slices everything inside the spirit, the soul, and just corrects things one at a time, corrects your heart, corrects your mind, lifts your will, and brings it all back together whole. And, it depends on how much damage you have inside of you as to how long that's going to take.
Yeah.
And I mean, I had a lot, so I took a long time. That's why I'm 68 and I'm sitting here, and you're a lot younger than me, and Steve's a lot younger. I mean, it took me forever, it seems, to get all that stuff, squared away. But I can attest that it can be done. That's the good news.
Yeah.
That's why I can have faith for other people, even if I feel sad that, and that's my, I do feel sad. I feel, maybe compassion's a better word. Sad. I'll just stick with sad. That that people have to go through that kind of stuff, because it was so hard for me. But I got to remember, everybody's different, and they'll be able to do it. They'll be able to do it. If they get on board and they ask, like you said, you asked, right? You said, go for it. To your higher self, you said, go ahead, break me.
Yeah. I said specifically, do something. Whatever it is, I don't care. Do something. Do whatever it takes to make this right. Whatever it takes, do it. I'm giving you my permission to do it, and I'm telling you to do it. I'm not asking. I'm telling you.
Yeah, and then it happens, and you're like, wait a minute, right?
That's right.
Hold on, I was kidding.
It's like, yeah, wait a minute, I didn't expect it to happen like that.
Right, right, exactly. Anybody else up there? That's that joke, You pray for something, and this happens, and you go, anybody else up there?
Yeah, it took a while to figure out, I must say, but at the end of all that, it's just pure happiness again, because that's your natural state, and it causes you to process everything. So there's nothing left to process. So you're back in your presence again, and you think, oh, I was happy all along anyway. There's no problem.
Yeah.
Now, when you say presence, do you mean like in your heart and mind united? What do you mean by your presence?
Just your self-awareness of your own existence.
The state of being you're in?
Yeah. Just a simple awareness of your own presence, that you are present and that you are consciousness, you are spirit.
Present in the now, in the moment.
Right now. That's
instead
right.
of living in yesterday or worrying about tomorrow.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, then you understand that saying, sufficient is the evil of every day. You don't have to worry about the past. You don't have to worry about the future. You can just deal with where you're at, and you have whatever you need. It's there,
Yeah.
And you know it.
Yeah, it can be referred to as connecting with your soul, which is, connecting back with God inside you, the wisdom, just the basic spiritual presence that you have.
Right.
Yeah,
the truth movement. Remember, repent, return, and then be restored.
Right.
And then reconcile everything you have out here to that.
Yeah.
I made up those little, that 4 phase, and then you can realize it outside. Then you can manifest it because you've got it corrected inside. And so, I've always thought that was a great, quick way. For years, I invented that concept, which is not really new. Every religion has it. But, for myself, it was a way for me to remember it for myself, 10 years ago, I thought of that, but it helps me when I do, I don't feel like I get lost anymore, but sometimes I can get lost in other people's stuff. I can, for that time being, when you have people that are really close to you, you really feel connected and you can get lost in their stuff.
Yeah.
And it can be a challenge to then keep yourself centered through that whole thing,
Yeah.
but it can be done.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Just to say, I found a lot of the challenges in my life were the way other people were feeling, and I didn't want them to feel bad in that moment. I wanted to help them see that the way I see things is better, and that they were looking at something in a negative way, And I always, I'm very empathic to other people, and I want them all to be happy. So I was always compensating for other people who would just drop in their emotions, and just go plummet in their sense of despair. I've seen despair, people go into despair, a state of despair. And I always wanted to do something about that and help them realize that it's completely pointless.
Yeah.
It's just a temporary point of view. Your status is always that of eternal peace and bliss. That's just your natural state, and it never changes. It's just a question of do you go away from it in your awareness? So bring it back, and there you are. You're happy again. It's not a silliness. It's not a silliness to say you're happy again. It's a
No.
great truth that you.
Yeah, be still
What
my
is the
soul, for God,
significance
and
of-
it's peace. It's
Oh,
peace that
sorry.
passes
Go
all
ahead, Yvonne.
understanding. Yeah, I hear you for sure. Yeah, but like bringing it back, right? Like just knowing that it's there for everybody. Because the eternal
Yeah,
doesn't change. It's always the same.
yeah,
And that's a good thing to know. That's a good thing to hang on to when you're going through your struggles, when you're going through your own process, to know that God hasn't changed, you're changing. You're coming to the point where you're lining up with that. That's all.
right, right,
Yeah.
yeah.
So where are you at now as far as like what are you doing now? I mean, that's a question. I'm curious because like now that you're at peace, are you still wanting to study? Are you still wanting to, like go further and knowing things that are not have nothing to do with spirituality? Or
No, there's several things at once. When I look back in hindsight, I've got 5.5 years since basically my own death. I consider that to be my death, and that Phil Langdon actually died in 2014, and I'm not that person anymore, really, in a way. But ever since then, it took 4 years to get all the information out of the new brain status. There was all this stuff in there that I knew was there, and I had to get it all out. It took 4 years to do that. And once that had gone, there was this sort of vacuous time where I thought, well, I'm a bit in limbo now because there's nothing new coming through, and I don't know what direction to turn in. But the issue was to come back to myself, because I basically stretched myself and gone way out into what's already been recorded, and well away from myself. And I found myself out there, as it were, mentally, not remembering, just to come back into myself. And I had to fix my own house because it had been damaged from before. Okay, so after that 4 year period, in the last year and a half, it's been focusing more and more about mastering the emotions, the mind, and the body. Those three aspects of my physical being on top of that, and being able to be on top of that. Basically mastering myself.
right.
That's where it's gone, and it's just culminating now. That. So that's taken 5.5 years. It's the first time in my life that I've been able to master my emotions, because they always got the better of me before, years ago.
That's huge, right? That's
It
learning to
is.
walk on the water, right?
Yeah. Right. Right.
Right.
Right. Yeah. But it does take to not mentally separate yourself from your body, but to understand. Because I've been through the ascension process, I know that that's real, and I've got that to fall on when I think about processing emotions and not wanting to feel grief, unnecessarily, etc. So I've been able to pull myself out of all that it's a victim mentality, basically.
Right.
You know?
You're renewing your mind. You're renewing your mind, not the higher
Yeah,
mind, which is
yeah,
always there, but you're renewing your mind.
that's
And
right.
that's huge because that's
That's right.
that's the part where it says that Abraham became a friend of God. You know, I believe that it's like your mind and the higher mind become friends.
Yeah,
You know, you can
yeah,
walk together in unity,
yeah,
and you don't have to be over here and the higher mind is up there and you're all over the place, you know.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a beautiful thing. Like this
That's right.
morning on my video about love, I really never I was explaining the four phases of love, like the height and depth, the plumb line from the deep to the height. But then there's love also goes out, just like a flower goes out from the seed, like a tree goes out from the seed. It's like love can fill all that empty spots that, you know, and that's what I'm excited about.
Mm,
You know, I wouldn't want to, I don't want to ever like lose connection with anybody, you know.
mm.
I know I'm connected to them all on that higher level, but you know, I have friends, I have family, and so that's my concern now is just how do you, I mean, I'm accepting that it's going to go out and it's going to be there for everybody. And that's a good thought for me. For right now, I'm going to focus on that, not on the plumb line, you know, of my higher mind and my lower self,
Yeah,
but on the extension of love, how it goes out to, you
right.
know what I mean? Right?
Yes, I do. Yeah, yeah. I mean, apart from that as well, I'm also I'm looking to go through the Nag Hammadi texts, and I think I'm going to write a book about those texts and what they're. So actually, it's a good time to read this out.
Yeah, I
Actually,
was just gonna say that what we were
yeah,
talking
because
about.
I've got the Nag Hammadi library here,
Yeah.
which came a few days ago, and I'm immediately going through some of these more unusual texts. And we've got one here called the Hypostasis of the Archons. And they're talking about Adam and Eve, and all of a sudden, um, angel information comes out, as I would call it, and a regular person is going to read that and think, what on earth are they talking about? I just, what? How come Eve has turned into a mother for Adam? It doesn't make sense. Right, so let me read this little passage out to you. And the spirit-endowed woman, that's Eve, came to him and spoke with him, saying, Arise, Adam. And when he saw her, he said, It is you who have given me life. Don't forget, in the normal story, Eve comes from Adam. She comes from one of the ribs of Adam. So it's Adam who's given her life, apparently, in that normal story. But here we're hearing the complete opposite.
Mhm.
So he says, It is you who have given me life. This is Adam
Mhm.
talking to Eve. And you will be called Mother of the Living, for it is she who is my mother. It is she who is the physician and the woman, and she who has given birth. So that only works when you
That's
realize that.
speaking of the light in the cosmos or the light in the abyss, right?
That's right. It only works when you start applying Eve to the cosmos, because she's the one who's given birth to the light. That's
Mhm.
right. And Eve is the secret of the heart as well. So there's an entire subject veiled in that concept. It's not just the cosmos you can apply it to. You can apply it to a human being as well, who is the miniature cosmos.
Right.
You
The
see what I
feminine
mean?
energy. Um, I mean, you look at Mary, she gave life. She was the one that gave birth to the Christ, to Jesus, and he's the last Adam. So she gave birth to Adam,
Hmm.
but it was only in after going through that cycle, right?
Yeah.
But I was going to say something else about that. That it triggered something, and now I can't remember what it was. So keep
We all
talking,
do
so
that.
it'll
That's so
come back to
funny.
me.
Hang on.
Yeah, I
Uh,
I'm
mean,
not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you because it happens to me constantly, and it happens to Phil too.
yeah.
yeah, yeah, I like that. And it says, you know, well, Eve became the mother of all living after, you know, but there's that curse on the heart and the curse on the mind, and the curse just means it's a temporary state until that happens,
Yeah.
until she gives life to the living. And
Yeah.
that's what everybody's waiting for. They're waiting for Eve, really, who is the mother of all living, to give birth. That's the good part of your heart. That's the way it is in the Bible to me. It's that good part of your own heart that gives birth to your higher self.
Yeah, that is absolutely fascinating, because the meeting with God, as I refer to as the first key to heaven, it activates in your heart, and of course Eve is the secret of the heart. So you complete this great work by finding Eve, who rises and gives her loving insight. Because there's no intellectualism when you meet God. It's purely about falling in love and being and becoming perfect in your experiential nowness.
Right.
It really is perfect.
And that's that absolute bliss feeling you feel when you're in love with somebody, right? That thing that just grabs you, or your heart, your inside.
It's way deeper than with a person. It's ineffable in itself. It's never ending. The love is so deep and never ending that you're left speechless. You're completely speechless, because it's
That's
just
what
so.
Yvonne was just saying about when she wanted to find that feeling again, right, Yvonne? I think.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, whatever his name was, Paul Purcell, I think, explained a long time ago. I read a book by him. I can't remember much of it, but he explains how when you fall in love with a person, your ego state collapses, and you really feel that love of God for them. But then because your ego you didn't really overcome it. It just collapsed because you fell in love. As soon as you're together, it snaps up. And that's where the battles begin. It's like, and it's almost like, no, you put your ego down. No, you put your ego down. Then it's like everybody wants the other one to put their ego down first, and then I'll put my ego down. And that's that battle that can go on forever.
Yeah, I was going to ask you both that question. Do you still battle that feeling that ego, mine's bigger than yours, that, I'm right, you're wrong, that type of thing anymore?
No. I mean, I'll just answer that first. This time I usually give Phil the floor, but I after being married, the first 20 years, I did a lot of that with my husband. But then I got to this point where I was like, wait a minute. Why am I expecting that from him and I'm not willing to do it first? I'm the spiritual one here, right? Ha ha ha. But I noticed that as soon as I was willing to put my ego down, there wasn't any more battles. It's like, because all he was just defending himself against my ego. It's like against the wall. And then when I put my ego down, it was over. There was no more battle. And so the next 30 years were great. I mean, I'm not saying we didn't have any more problems, because we did, but it wasn't about that anymore. We just stopped that constant struggle between each other. But it was definitely, I think it's the person who's more insecure that puts their ego up quicker. That's my interpretation of that, Okay, right? That was me. So, yeah, for sure.
What about you, Phil? You still try to suppress your ego?
No. Well, once you've had that awareness, as if, because when God enters your body, you basically become God. You know what it is to be God, and once you've had that, if you have any ego issues afterwards, the ego just gets battered until it just gives in. It's kind of like that, I'm always ready just to say, no, God. My answer to my ego is God.
Yeah.
God outlives you. Do be quiet.
Yeah. It's called dying to yourself, right?
So you put your ego in the
Yeah. And it's like, I really love the art of dying, because it is really living. When Christ says, if you give up your life for my sake, not just give it up, but for my sake, you'll find your true life. And it's really true. So like, I can give up my life 1,000 times a day and I find my true life, and I don't mind giving it up 1,000 times a day. I used to be like, well, I just did that a couple of months ago, And it's like, no, it doesn't work like that. It becomes closer and closer together to where you can actually do it at the moment, at the second that you need it. And that's called freedom to me.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and people were just having a disagreement or a discussion about the right and left sides of the brain as far as Eve and Adam. So yeah, they go.
There are many applications to the Adam and Eve because it's the fundamental relationship,
The
Adam
yin
and
and the
Eve as
yang,
well.
or right?
Yeah, it's the fundamental relationship. You know, the creator and the cosmos. That's Adam and Eve as well.
Mhm.
So that there are many ways of expressing that. So if someone says no, it's this, it is that as well.
Mhm.
You can talk about the brain lobes. You can talk about chambers of the heart. Maybe you can talk about left and right side of your body as male and female aspects. All sorts of things. You know, you can break it down any which way. Almost.
Yeah, like the Egyptians, they did that crossover thing all the time. The rod and the staff, they come, and the serpent lifted up, all that, that symbolism. The right brain is really the left side of the body, and the
Mhm.
left side of the body is really the right brain.
Yeah.
So that's the male side is the right side, and the
Right.
left side is the female side.
Yeah.
That's why Jesus said, put your net down on the left side of the boat, because you're going to catch those fish if you go to the female side, if you go to the heart.
Yeah.
It says they fished all night and they couldn't find anything because they just fished with their minds. And that just wasn't where the answers were going to be found. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
That's excellent. That's an excellent story.
Yeah. And they
Somebody
caught
says
great
looking
fish.
up and to the right
150.
signifies somebody's telling a lie. I thought it was. Yeah, I thought it was you're accessing your memory when you look up and to the right.
Oh, I'd be very careful about little rules of thumb like that. Be very careful. Very careful. You can't oversimplify that sort of thing and then start saying it. They're lying. They're lying. They're lying.
Yeah,
Every
it's
time.
across the
You
board.
know,
It's way-
when they're not, and it just so happens they look at. We do look in certain directions when we think, for instance.
yeah.
We do.
Especially when you're more balanced, your mind and your heart are going to be going back and forth. And, it's mostly settled here. Your frontal lobe, where they used to give you a lobotomy back in the old days, that is where, that's that part that comes as a clean slate when you're born. Your autonomic nervous system becomes fully formed. You don't have to
Right.
think, breathe, bleed. You don't have to think of any of that.
Yeah.
But here is where you develop your ego, and here is where you need to be corrected in your thinking, and it has to line up with the rest of your brain. It has to line up not only with your autonomic nervous system, but also with how you hear things, perceive them, how you discern them, everything. It all has to fit together. So I think a balanced person can look anywhere they want and they'd be, looking in the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd agree. I'd agree with that.
I
Absolutely.
wonder what people think about me when they see me on camera, because I'm always looking everywhere. Man, he must be lying, or he must be crazy, or
I just think you're looking at people's comments and going, oh, how am I going to make this more interesting?
no, I'm not even thinking about more interesting. I'm just trying to get an answer. That brings me to I realized recently that Phil, the Angkor Wat, that is in the layout as same as Solomon's Temple, is it not?
Effectively, they all do the same thing. But Angkor Wat is
I'm talking the physical layout of it.
it's a miniature version of the. It's kind of like saying it's a miniature version of everything from the cosmos all the way down to the poignant Axis Mundi, the finding of Axis Mundi. So it incorporates the entirety of creation in one building. That's the idea of it, from start to finish, from ineffable to poignant.
Same with Solomon's Temple and churches and whatnot, right?
Yeah, they all represent the human body, which is where the Son of God is born. That's why they're based on the human body, and they represent every aspect of the human body, because it's the human body that allows for that to occur.
It's the vessel in which the light is born.
Yeah. So that's what's going to be revered. Yeah.
For sure.
And,
we look at things outside until we get to know our inside. It's kind of like I was explaining a little kid learning how to read apple, and they see a little apple, they go, oh, this is an apple. And then, and then you taste it and you really know what an apple is. So it's like, these different dimensions, you see, and you compare what you're out here, but then when you know it inside, then you really know it, and you don't need to look at it outside.
Yeah.
That's why they were, I think Abraham was called, his father was an idol maker. And what that means is they were building all these constructs that were teaching the people how to understand the reality that they were in. And he came out of that, God says, come out of that, because I'm going to show you what it's like inside. That's the meaning of Abraham's covenant with God. It's like he no longer looked outside, but when he had that relationship with the light going between his heart, his animate desires, that's what those are. That's why the heart is like a beast, because it's animate, it's run by desire. But once the light went through it, then he saw this great darkness, which was the void, but it's also where everything is created and where all the idols are made. That's, I mean, you can make a lot of stuff up through that void,
Yeah.
and it may not be true.
Yeah.
But you'll find the truth once you enter it, because when you enter it, you find that there's nothing in there but just you and God. And now you can find the true form of everything. That's just my thing about that.
No, that's great. That's terrific. I like that.
Let me run this by you. Ezekiel chapter 1. Now it came to pass in the 30th year, in the 4th month, in the 5th day of the month, as I was among the captives by the river Char, that the heavens were opened, and I saw visions of God. In the 5th day of the month, which was the 5th year of King, Jehoiachin's captivity, the word of the Lord came expressly unto Ezekiel, the priest, the son of Buzi, in the land of the Chaldeans by the river Chabar, and the land of the Lord was there upon him. And then it says, paragraph I'll read is, and I looked, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north, a great cloud, and the fire enfolding itself, and a brightness was about it. And out of the midst thereof, as the color of amber, out of the midst of the fire. So what's with the numbers and stuff? I mean, is that code? Is that what you were talking about earlier?
It's gematria. It's gematria. If you different months in Judaism, they have like these cycles where certain months, certain things happen. Like Tisha B'Av, it's coming up right now in the end of July or August. It's where they remember Israel falling to the root, which is the singularity. That's something that happened, like the sage of Paul when he fell back off his horse, or when the Virgin of Israel sits on the ground with dust on her head because she's underneath. So you're going to the root of something. In every month, then comes the Yom Kippur, which is your atonement, when you usually are lit, and then comes the Sukkot, which raises you up. It's like the rapture. You go and keep your feast at tabernacles above. You know about tabernacles because of the way that you've done the letters. Remember the little teepee, the tripod, or the pyramid, whatever. That's like you and God. Only you and God can fit in that place. Nothing else can fit in that feast of tabernacles with you. Stuff like that. So they give those months, and it could just be pure gematria, just letters that mean something. I don't really know, but I think he was definitely facing the singularity was coming to him. That whirlwind is like, I remember when it came to me, and it felt like it was coming from outside of me at first, and then it kind of grabbed me and sucked me into it. And I went like round, real fast with Christ. And it was like we were becoming one, like a rope. And the next thing I knew, I was in another dimension. So that whirlwind will suck you in, and it takes you away in your consciousness. I was right in my living room. I never left, but my consciousness went somewhere else. Crazy.
What's your take on the numbers there, Phil? The 30th year?
Yeah, I'm just looking up number 30. So I'm very used to that sort of alludence when they start talking numbers and throwing numbers at you. Just go to the Hebrew alphabet and look up those numbers relative to the letters.
Yeah, 30 is the Lamed. And it's the teacher. It's the teacher. And it's the only letter that goes above the line of consciousness.
Wow, she's on it.
What?
Wow. I said, you're on it, man. Holy shit. My language. It's quite impressive.
It's the issue of learning and teaching. Yeah.
Yes. That's why Jesus was 30 years old when he, became the teacher. But
it was only 3 years after that he was crucified, right? 33?
Sorry.
What?
And it was only 3 years later he was crucified at 33, right? And then
But the 12th Lamed, even though it's got a value, all the Hebrew letters have values and numbers. Like it's the 12th letter. He was 12 when he taught in the temple, but it has a value of 30. So he was also 30 when he went out. You see how they have that all figured out? It's all figured out, right?
That's right.
Go ahead. So what's
there's a letter that goes underneath the line, below the line, which represents the depth, which is the letter Kuf. And that is, that one takes you down,
What letter Kuf is that what you said? What you said?
Kof.
What was the letter you said?
Is it Kuf or Kuf? I don't even know how to say it, but.
Some say Kof.
Yeah, Kuf. Yeah, and there's the Kaf, which is the palm, but the Kuf or Kaf is a Q. It's the Q letter Q.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know a little bit about the Hebrew letters. I used to study them a long time ago, so I don't remember them as much as I should,
Yeah. They hide a lot of information in the Bible through the numbers as well. So it's all you got to do is check the Hebrew letter associated with it, look at the issues around that Hebrew letter, and you can start piecing their story together even more so. It gives you more detail.
Right.
Yeah, and Ezekiel, what he's talking about when he starts talking about the colors coming out of it, etc. It's really very Kabbalistic. The book of Ezekiel is heavily Kabbalistic.
Like the Pymanders, that's what it reminds me of, is when he's talking about that, the Pymanders.
Oh, right. The Pymanders book to me is very direct. It's very direct, it's very literal and quite in your face. In comparison.
I don't even know what that is, so there's a lot of things I don't know anything.
Oh, in the Corpus Hermeticum, the first or second is it chapter? Yeah, chapter is called Poimanders, which means the shepherd of men, and it's about the light. It's about the creator. It's about someone finding the creator and having a supposed conversation with it, so that the reader can learn things about that situation and the concepts involved with it.
Good. All right. We'll learn
it doesn't actually happen, of course. It's just a way of teaching somebody who's reading the material, about the creator and the fact that he does actually create things, and as if he is a force unto himself, but it's quite a passive sort of creation, a creative principle in a way.
I can tell you from experience, I read that 300 times, Phil, and never even fathomed what you just described it as and then it clicked when I met you and you explained it, just a couple aspects of it. Or actually, I think I put it together after you explained what the light was, and and then I went back and reread. As I reread a lot of things, especially the Bible now that I've met Yvonne, it's like, wow. See, I knew what the whirlwind and all that was referencing, but I didn't know what the numbers were referencing or how to get to the answer of it. But now I do, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's right. You hear a lot about water and the number 40 in quite a few, like 40 years. Yeah, the mem, which means water. It's very.
And water holds memory.
Right, it does. Yeah, it does. Actually.
There you go. Memory.
Yeah, that's right.
And the sixth, I did a thing on the final mem, which is the waters. The mem encloses, and it's the waters of repentance, and also the time of the Messiah. Because when you repent all the way back to the waters, the original source, then that is the meaning of the coming of the Messiah within you, because that's what manifests from that repentance. That's why it always says repent, return, go back to your root, But there he is. That's where he comes from.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's right. Because once you go there, the only other way is out, as it were, to grow. In a way, you could say.
So even after the event, you still, the mountain of truth grows before you as you're climbing it. I mean, it still continues to evolve. I mean, the truth evolves before you, no matter on what level you're on, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. I mean, so if you just extrapolate a little bit, if you're mastering yourself, what would be the use of that? Surely you're going to become someone who is in control of themselves and can make a great experience for themselves and others, and be a living example to others, so that they can see that how this works. Because in a way, it's really just mastering what you've got. The best way to do that is self-honesty, I found. Just total honesty, because it's already there. You just have to see it for what it is. And once you realize it, then you can use it for the best possible way.
Yes.
You know?
Absolutely. That's our part, being honest. Whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest. The truth is always the same, but our honesty brings us closer to it.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. Yeah.
You can lie to everybody else around you, but you can't lie to yourself, right?
Yeah. If you do, you're in trouble. My God.
Yeah, if you do, you wind up like me. You wind up lost.
Or if you've seen that movie Liar Liar, when Jim Carrey's kicking his own ass in the bathroom, and the guy walks, "What are you doing?" "I'm kicking my ass." But Menza asks, we're entering the age of Aquarius. Is there any significance to that in either one of you guys' opinion?
Go ahead, Phil.
Okay. Well, you can talk about divine timings, automatic divine timings, you know, the astrological age changing and the influences changing. I go for that an awful lot. I think this is quite a natural sequence and process anyway. It's fairly predictable. People are going to change their attitudes. You know, we're going towards freedom more now than before. And things have changed enormously as a transition into the age of Aquarius, I think.
Yeah, I look at the water bearer as this man. You know, he's not one of these animals and insects, but he's like man, and he's, you know, giving the water to the earth. He's like helping people to be enlightened, I guess. And, you know, he's kind of come to his own self, his own understanding of who he is. That's man. That's what God is making man. We have all these animate parts of us. Everything in nature is part of us. But when we become man, we reflect the creator. We reflect the image of God. It has nothing to do with our body. It has to do with our mental state, in that the water can flow. We can give water.
Yvonne, I don't want to interrupt you, but I want you to clarify. You say this all the time. You say to develop you as a female, into a man. You know, a lot of females, you know, will be taken aback by that. You know, so explain what you mean by man and the development of man coming from a woman perspective. That whole, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a big one. It's a big, it's kind of like comes at the end of the journey for me, because the feminine energy is the desire, and it has to. It's like when I see, you know, God wants to make man, right, in his image and likeness. I'm looking at like nature saying, I want to create something that I can depend on, you know. That's what I feel she's doing. And so she's creating this being that is always going to be with her and be, like it says, the inner man of our heart. So the female energy wants this intention that's strong and stable, and that, you know, it can count on no matter what the desire is, no matter what the problem is, that the desire can turn to that intention and be stabilized. That's what I see as man.
I won't ask Phil anything because he's eating right now. No.
Yeah.
What time is it there, Phil?
Oh, okay.
What?
He's hungry.
He's muted because he doesn't want to hear us crunching.
Sorry.
It's all good, man. That's all good. I was just giving you a little guff. What time is it?
It's 10 o'clock.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
What time do you go to work in the morning?
11 a.m.
Oh.
I've stopped being early now. There's no more earlies. They've changed my
That's a little better
shift.
for you.
I'm okay, but
Yeah.
I do need to get on and do some bits and pieces.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you know, thanks guys for joining us. And if nobody has any other questions, you know, we didn't really dive in. Oh, the significance of the date today in the yogic tradition. What is that about?
No idea.
2020. Is that what you're talking
Yeah.
about?
7/20/2020. But it's, I think it's this date every year they do a stone laying for a new foundation in the Hindu or yogic religion.
Right. It might be some kind of cycle, yearly, the 20-year cycle, commemorating something. I'm not familiar with that, to be honest.
It was on. I'm only asking because I seen a post by Sadhguru, or you know, that he was hosting this event that was on. Man, you can't keep up with that chat at all when you go to his live streams. It's crazy. There's just millions of people on there.
Yeah,
You should have him on.
Oh, right.
Put him all over here, right?
I'd love it, but I don't think he'd ever answer the phone.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you get too busy when you're so popular, you know.
Well,
Well,
I can. I'll just end it with
everybody calling it.
the Hebrew kaf kaf, the two hands that are open. They're no longer fists. The open kaf is, I believe, it's like the ability to receive the good, receive the spirit, and that's what I'm looking, especially with the 7 in front of it, the number of completion. So maybe this is the year, even though it looks really, really bad for us out there. It looks very confusing. It looks like, what the heck's going on? I believe that there's something good's going to come out of it. We're going to be open to something good.
Yeah, I agree.
What's the what was I gonna say? I was gonna say hang on. Oh God, I hate that so much. It was something important too. I was like excited to say it.
Was it about the date?
The date, I think so. I don't know. It'll come to me, but I appreciate you both for joining.
Right. Thank you, man.
I appreciate you both.
Yeah, same. I appreciate you guys. Yeah.
And but what was I gonna say? Oh God, it's important. Otherwise, I wouldn't be stopping myself.
Yeah.
The whole Jesus. Oh, okay, whatever. Forget it. I'll think about it. I'll bring it up next time.
Okay.
But yeah.
When you think about it, just write it down.
Yeah, I will.
You got it.
Maybe I need to start writing every thought down as I'm talking to you guys, so I can remember what I was saying 5 seconds later.
Well, I'm sending love to you guys.
Yeah.
Much love to you.
Thanks, Yvonne. Thank you.
Big hugs. Thanks,
Well,
brother. I appreciate you both, and thanks everybody who joined us. And I'll be on tonight on Milky Way Soul Tribe's channel. Oh, by the way, you heard that Brian passed away, didn't you? Bill?
I don't know who he is, dude.
You were interviewed by him once. Milky Way Messenger.
Oh, him! Oh
Yeah.
my gosh! Yes, I remember him now.
Yeah. So yeah, he's in the doo-wop with Jerry Runk. Hopefully they're having a good old time or laughing at us in our confused states down here.
Well, they're going to be having a rest, that's for sure,
Right.
before coming back.
Yeah. But hey, thank you guys. Love you both. Thank you very much. Thanks everybody.
Take care, guys. Take care. Bye-bye, everyone.
Take it easy, bud.
Yeah, you too, Steve. Thanks, man. Cheers. Yep.